welcome to my teaching learning session. Today we are going to cover BEGLA 135 English in Daily Life, Block 1. And my name is ISHITA. I'm an academic counselor at IGNU. So the topic is Block 1, Greetings and Goodbye. So we are often encountered with situations where we have to present ourselves, and communication is the way in which we give our first impression to people. And often we have certain reservations and inhibitions in speaking. There are moments when you get tongue tied, and there is difficulty in starting a conversation. So the way you have few rules in formal speech, similarly there are rules, not very rigid, but there are rules in informal communication, daily communication as well. Okay, so in block 1 of this course, we show you how to begin and end conversations, and how to conduct social small talk, how to express your feelings, because communication is not just about conversation, it's not just verbal expressions, it's also about your smile, your gesture, your body language, right? So, now, what is this course? Well, first of all, welcome to the course English in Daily Life. And it is meant for those of you who already have some basic skills in the language. You are not novice, okay? And now you are ready to acquire greater proficiency in it. This course aims to improve your command over the English language by giving you extensive practice in learning, in reading, writing, speaking, and listening. To improve your accuracy in the language, you have exercises which make you practice your grammatical skills, grammatical structures, and this will also help you in working on your writing part, right? Editing your work. Now, so unit 1, you have starting and ending conversations. And what are the objectives that we have in this? After studying this unit, once you go through this, what are the abilities that you'll develop? First, you begin and end conversations appropriately. Okay, you have a better understanding of the etiquettes which are to be followed and expressions which are to be used. You can monitor your own speech more critically, and self analysis is always good, self introspection. Now, let's do a warm up exercise. Okay, you have to answer with yes, no, sometimes. So I'm going to give you four statements, and you have to think about it, whether your answer is yes, no, or sometimes. All right. So first is I feel shy and never open a dialogue with strangers. So is that yes, no, or sometimes for you? I'll repeat. I feel shy and never open a dialogue with strangers. What does it feel? Okay. Second, at a party, I never introduce my friends to my family and colleagues. Again, you have to select one option. Yes, no, sometimes. If you're at a party, do you go and introduce your friends to your family and colleagues? Do you take that initiative to do that? Okay. Shall we move to third? All right. Third, I feel nervous and confused if I am left alone with unfamiliar people. Do you feel confused? What is your answer here again? All right. Now, fourth is, have you ever left parties unnoticed? The host is somewhere and you have attended a party and you just left it without thanking the host. Have you done that? Again, yes, no, sometimes. All right, so these are your four options. Now look at your answers. What do you have? Is it what is the maximum number of is it yes, is it no, is it sometimes? Okay, so if it is yes, most of your answers are yes, then you probably need to pay a lot of attention on this block, right? Now, let's move to etiquette. What do you understand by etiquette? Etiquette is a set of customs and rules for polite behavior, especially among a particular class of people or in a particular profession. All right. Etiquette is a set of customs and rules for polite behavior, especially among a particular class of people or in a particular profession. Example, table manners, how to introduce one person to another when someone invites you. And also when you pay someone a visit, right? What kind of manners do you follow in these situations? Okay. Now, what is the origin of etiquette? Some of the rules of etiquette began hundreds of years ago when things were not same as they are today. So times have changed and there are certain situations, normative behavior which have not undergone change in in this period. So now you have to see that are those set of values, those normative behavior, are those still relevant and is it still applicable? Alright. So you have to look at what is relevant in current times and what is not relevant. But even if with changing time, the relevance might be affected in one or the other way, you'll notice that the basic premise for etiquette is kindness. Okay, so if you follow kindness in your way of communication or in your day-to-day behavior, you'll find that even with changing times, it doesn't make a lot of difference, right? Even if the set standards have changed or a certain behavior or a particular response might have changed, but this remains the same. Okay. And what are the things that you need to take care of? Even if you know you do not have a guideline about following certain set of behavior in particular situations, what is it? What are the things that you need to keep in mind? First is never hurt other people's feelings. Like I said, that kindness is the basic premise, right? So you are never supposed to hurt other people's feelings. Okay, that's one thing that you need to take care of while you are dealing with people and whatever behavior or whatever situation. And this is irrespective of time, right? Second is never make things unpleasant or uncomfortable for other people. So if you are in a situation where you are the host, and even if you are the guest, you have to ensure that your behavior does not impact others in a negative way. You are not supposed to pick topics which are unpleasant or which might make people uncomfortable. You have to take everybody's sensibility um, in concern, right? And especially if it is a group, then you cannot stick to a certain topic or a certain uh, issue which might hurt their sensitivity or sensibility, their respective sensibility. So you have to be very particular about that. Okay. Then kindness is always good manners. Kindness is always good manners, and unkindness will never be. So this is one rule that goes without saying. Like I said in the beginning, that basic premise is kindness. So if you practice kindness at all times, then automatically you will be aware that I'm not supposed to speak this thing or I'm not supposed to practice this behavior because this might affect or impact a certain section of people in a certain way, right? Now, let's look at certain behaviors which existed and these were considered the standard rules of etiquette in past times, and let's see if they are still relevant. Okay, so first is, you remember, you must have seen it in the movies, or if you pick British movies, or if you look at a Victorian era, you'll see that a man would tip or lift his hat as a polite greeting. Can you think of any such scene from any movie or any show that you have seen? Right? A man will tip or lift his hat as a polite greeting, usually to women in Western countries, right? So, what was the origin of this behavior? This is very interesting again. So, the origin was knight in armor. You know, earlier there were knight in armor. You must have heard the phrase knight in shining armor. So they used to wear a certain armor, and there was a helmet on their face. Now they needed to take off their helmet so that their faces could be seen. Okay, so from there, this was the origin of this tipping of hat, which continued over time. Okay, you don't see people doing that now, but even from the times when there were knights and they were wearing all those armors, it continued, and it the helmet, you see, transformed to the no the helmet transformed to the hat. So now that particular behavior where they had to take off the helmet to show their face, it became the hat now. Now it's continued. So they just had to tip their hat. They had to show their face with the helmet, but not with they don't need, because with hat, the face is already visible, so you don't need to do that. But the trend continued, and you see that it with gradually with time it has come to an end. Now people don't really do that, right? So there are theories which tell you the origin of a certain etiquette, but with changing times, these patterns change. Now, you will see this in another example. People shake hands, right? And how? What do you think could have been the origin? So earlier, people would shake hands just to show that they were not holding any weapons in the hand. Okay, there was nothing hidden. There was no dagger or anything in their hand. So shaking hands showed that your hand is empty, and it's a very amicable, friendly interaction, right? And now, like if we look at contemporary times, you see namaste, our own very namaste, is becoming more global. Everybody's practicing, especially after COVID. It has become the popular mode of greeting, right? And it is, we already know that namaste helps control the hemispheres of the brain, and also the chakra. Okay, so this system has existed in Indian tradition for a long time, and you see that with changing times, even the mode of greeting, which was more popular from the Western system, is now getting. I mean, shaking hands is still, it's still a popular mode of greeting, but Namaste is becoming a popular mode as well, right? So that was we looked at. You understand that the origin for shaking hands was to show that you were not holding any weapon, right? And to develop trust, obviously. Now, third is a man walks on the outside of the sidewalk and women inside. You must have seen. Again, you have to refer to movies and such scenes where you'll see that the man would walk on the outside, on the sidewalk, and the woman inside. Why would that happen? So earlier, there were carriages through which the mode of transportation was carriage. So if the women are walking on the other side, sometimes there were muddy roads, and the roads were not as developed as they are today. So there were muddy roads, and if the carriages would pass, then they would splash the mud on women's dresses. So the trend was that the man would walk on the outside of the sidewalk and women will walk inside, right, to protect their outfits from getting splashed by carriages. Okay, so these are very interesting origins. Now, the last one. If you look at how you've seen that this continues even today, this is not an old fashioned thing. A man helps a woman across a street or out of a car. You must have seen in the award functions that, usually when women are wearing those dresses, so the actors would lend their hand to hold, right? So this trend has still continued. Or if they're coming out of the car, you'll see, I mean, look at the advertisements, look at the shows. They will step out, and they're one with one hand they would usually be holding their dress, and with the other hand they would usually be asked by somebody to hold the hand, right? So a man helps a woman across the street or out of car, and this used to happen because women used to wear long skirts. So why would men offer their hand or help them step out? Because they would want to protect them from tripping. Okay, now let's look at some rules of etiquettes. If we are talking about making introductions, so what you do if, let's say, you were at a party or any social gathering and you have to introduce people. How do you introduce? You will always introduce a younger person to an older one. Okay, so for example, uh, Miss Verma, may I introduce my friend Neeta Kumar? Among grown-ups, what happens? A man is usually, generally, a man is introduced to a woman. Miss Verma, may I introduce Mr. Kumar? Right? So, two things. What? First, a younger person is introduced to the older one, and second, a man is generally introduced to the women. Simple. Right. Now, when you are with one friend and you meet another, let's say you're hanging out with a friend and then you are supposed to meet another friend, what do? You must immediately introduce them because you are the common contact there. So if they don't know each other already, you are supposed to introduce them to each other so that you are, because you are the common factor who is going to create that comfort level among those two people, right? So now if you have been out with a friend and let's say he or she accompanies you home, then you should ideally you should ask them to come in, because they are coming along with you, they are with you and they're outside your door. So just don't bid goodbye, say like you should invite them ideally, until unless you have an exceptional situation at home. All right, so you invite them to come inside. Now it's their choice whether they want to come in, depending on their schedule or the kind of time or comfort that they have at that point, right? You should ask them like, would you like to come in? And then you may introduce them to your family members, right, who are there. uh, and why you need to introduce them? Obviously, if they know them already, then they'll be familiar, they'll be comfortable. But if they don't know your family members, so just like in the previous example, when you are introducing two unknown friends to each other, similarly you are supposed to introduce them to your family members, so they become, next time when they visit your house, they are more comfortable, okay, and your family is more comfortable in their presence as well. All right. So if you fail to make these or offer these introductions and you are the common person, then it can be a little uncomfortable for either of the parties, right? Now let's look at table manners. So different countries have different way of eating, and of course, uh, that means different table manners, right? And different polite table manners. So some use knife, fork, and spoon, and there would be different ways of arranging them also. If you see a properly laid table, you'll see that the cutlery is arranged in a certain way. So there are standard ways in different countries or different cultures to arrange those cutleries. Okay, and in some countries cutleries are not used, but there could be other trends or other systems or other patterns that they are following, and that could be that culture's ideal table manners, right? Now if we talk about usual dining, since we're talking about daily life, so if you go to a restaurant, so you are given an napkin. Now the napkin is not supposed to be tucked into your collar until unless there is a kid, right? The napkin is supposed to be kept on your lap, so don't tuck the napkin in your collar. Okay, it should be laid in the lap and never tucked in any part of the clothing for that matter. Also, leaning on the table with your elbows. So let's say if you are in your own personal space, then you can sit whatever way you want. But right now, for example, if I'm sitting here and giving this presentation, I cannot keep my elbows and lie down. Right? That would not be a very gentle or professional way of doing it. Okay, so if you are eating, even in table manners, you do not lie down or you do not rest your elbows on the table. Slightly is okay till the time you are not disturbing the table settings, right? Or making the other person uncomfortable. Now, second is acknowledgement. So let's see. First, we talked about making introductions, then we talked about table manners. Now, we talk about acknowledgement. How do you acknowledge? So, before leaving any house in which you are a guest, you must find your host and hostess and thank them. Remember the warm up exercise that we did, and I asked you about if you leave a party, do you go to the host and thank them or do you see them, right? So this is the part where one needs to work, and one needs to be careful that if you are attending a party or if you are a guest at somebody's house, you must find your host and hostess and thank them. right? A thank you note, and after you have left their house, you thank them there, and after you have left their house, you must also send a thank you note. So earlier, there were other mode of communication, so you would probably send a thank you letter or a greeting card, but now it's much easier. It's very simple now. You just send a text, WhatsApp text, or email, right? You can call as well, but let's say if they have hosted the party and they are busy or tired, then you would probably not want to keep them on call, okay, in case they are taking rest. So you might call or you might drop a text, but the idea is that you must thank them, right? All right. Now, gifts. So when you are offering somebody gift should not be too expensive or too personal unless you know the person very well. Okay. Courtesy to ladies. So 50 years ago, it was not polite for a man to remain seated. Now, again, like we were talking about the topic origin of etiquettes. So you see, there were things which were relevant earlier, which are not relevant now. So if we talk about this particular topic, even you look at previous times, and when a woman would enter, again, go back to some of the scenes that you can think about from the movies from that time. So man would stand up, right? If a woman enters the room, and if a woman was standing. Uh, so if the woman asked him to sit down, then only he would sit down. So when a woman entered a room, every man in the room immediately stood up and remained standing until she sat down or asked them to sit down. And now you see things have changed. For example, you look at metro, there are seats reserved for women. So sometimes men do sit on those seats, right? And the women has to come and ask to give them those seats. Some men would get up automatically, and some would, some need to be told. So things are changing, okay, and accordingly etiquettes, and it is even today, it is the right behavior to get up from a seat which is probably reserved for women, but the seats which are not reserved, if a man is sitting there, okay, and he has probably come tired all the way, then even if a woman enters in the metro, it is not necessary that he would stand up because he might be more tired than the other uh, female, okay, and but they will stand if the woman might be pregnant, okay, might be ill, might be old, and that goes not only for women, also for men if they are old people. Right etiquette in current times would be to get up and offer them the seat because you see that they need it more than you do, right? So, like I said, kindness. So we can relate it to the previous question. Kindness is the ultimate premise of good etiquettes and manners. Now, a man would not get into a car until the woman was in it and the door on her side was closed. Okay, this was another thing, as a another thing practiced as a courtesy to ladies. So you see that there are men and they open the door and let the lady, and this is still being practiced. And the woman enters, they'll close the door, and then they'll go and probably sit on their seat, right? Even on while eating, as table manners, they would first let the woman sit and then he would sit down. Okay, so one of the obstacles in conversation is problems in starting conversation starter. Okay, how does one work on that, right? So usually we have some preconceived notions of the subject matter, formality level, and so on. Our expectations, of course, are linked to our purpose in listening. For example, if we look at the heading of this topic, let's look at the heading of this topic. We know we are going to read about some problem. So you look at the topic and instantly it's like you're going to talk about a certain problem, right? That's the first impression that you get. Why? Because we have preconceived notions, okay? Therefore, there is a close association between listener expectation, purpose, and comprehension. Remember these three words: listener expectations, purpose, and comprehension. So now let's move to samples of greetings. Okay, starting a conversation involves making people feel relaxed and comfortable. Okay, again, premises kindness. So out of kindness, if you practice kindness, you will ensure that the people who are around you, they are feeling comfortable in their skin, in their situation, in the environment they are in, right? So you may have to start a conversation. Let's say there are people who are probably shy, and you might become that link. Okay, you might become like in when you were introducing people who did not know each other, you became the common link who was introducing these two people, or your family members or your friends, okay, because you were the common factor between them. So if you have to start when you are welcoming visitors, if there are guests in the house, then as a host also you have to play the role of that common link. You have to make people comfortable. And when you don't know others at a meeting, party, or social gathering, let's say you are the guest somewhere, then also you might want to start a conversation, because conversations or communication, good communication, helps you develop network. It makes you more secure socially, right? And like I mentioned, starting a conversation involves making people feel relaxed and comfortable. And starting a conversation, again, the question is, how do you start a conversation? So there are three steps. First, you start with the greeting. Second, you introduce yourself. Third, you ask about the other person's well-being, right? Very easy ways. You just, again, let's recall this in our minds. Greeting, right? Introducing yourself and asking people about their well-being. Okay. Now, the formulas for these are fixed, and they usually do not carry any different meaning. For example, if you ask somebody, "How are you?" Okay, you don't exactly, not always. Okay, you might not always need to know how are they doing, right? And if they reply, "Fine, thanks," it's not necessary that they are really fine. They might be really stressed out about something, or they might be going through a very tough time. But it's a common understanding between both the parties that it's more of a greeting. How are you doesn't exactly refer to finding out how are you doing or what is going on in your life, or to invade in your personal space. It is just a form of greeting, okay, the polite way of knowing you or addressing you or acknowledging your presence, right? So or you say good morning. So it might not be a good morning, but you say good morning, right? And no one except your close friends really wants to know about your troubles. So these are routine courtesies. And the expressions that you use will vary according to your relationship. So let's say if a close friend asks you, "How are you?" then you might end up having a catharsis. You might just go on telling them about what is happening, right? So it differs. Now, writing short responses, starting a conversation with a stranger is rather difficult task. Let us practice some situations where you may be required to begin conversation. It is not very comfortable for people to start a conversation, especially with a stranger. So, how do you do it? Because it might not be indispensable, but it always helps, right? If you're traveling in a train, you have to be careful. I mean, you have to maintain your discretion about how much are you going to communicate with one person. But for a long journey, or even if you're at a new place, new country, it will always help if you know. I mean, if you are able to strike a chord with people who probably do not know you since a long time. So it is a skill to have, and it enables you to adjust or accommodate yourself in new situations. Okay, so you have exercises in your study material where you can check your progress through those exercises. Now, how to end a conversation? We have spoken about how to start the conversation. Now, how to end a conversation. So again, you go through those exercises, and you can check your progress there. Ending involves two steps. First, you signal the end, okay, and there is a parting salutation, okay. Usually, the initiative to close a conversation must come from the older person. Now, again, with changing times, things have changed. So now people can have dearth of time. But still, the ideal circumstance, ideal situation would be where the older person is ending the conversation. but sometimes it might just happen that the younger person has to rush for something. Then how do you end the conversation? It has to be very polite, very respectful, so that you do not offend the other person, right? Now, you may indicate your desire to end a conversation through body language or by making excuse, apologies, etc. Genuine excuse, you might let them know. Be polite and let them know that you have something to take care of, and then that give a parting salutation. Okay. Now, let's look at some formal and informal expressions. So, informal, oh hi, keep quiet, right? Hello, Dave, lucky fellow. So long. By then. Sorry, yaar. Huh? These are informal. Now, formal would be good morning. What a pleasant surprise. Would we all maintain a moment's silence, please? Good morning, Mr. Dev Kumar. How do you do? Okay, so earlier you had hello, Dev. That was informal. And informal expression, it would be good morning, Mr. Dev Kumar. How do you do? Okay, lucky fellow. This is indeed a stroke of good luck. Formal, right? Informal, so long. Formal, goodbye. Informal, bye then. Formal, good night. Informal, sorry, yaar. Formal, please accept my apology. Now, farewells and goodbyes. So, along with greetings, we have spoken about how you greet people, how you start conversations, how you end conversations. Now, an extension to ending conversation would be farewells and goodbyes. Along with greetings, farewells are an important part of a social interaction, both in informal and formal situations. Common ways to say goodbye in English are in informal way, you will be bye, bye bye, see you later, see you soon, or talk to you later. Informal and business way it would be have a nice day, or have a good morning, have a good afternoon, have a good evening, or I look forward to our next meeting. In slangs, it would be later, laters, or catch you later. Peace, peace out, right? These are slangs. Now, grammar, the simple present tense verb to be. So, notice the words which are in bold. I am, you are, she, he, it is, we are, they are. In conversation and informal writing, we use contractions. I am, you are, he is, it is, Anjus, we are, they are, right? Now, pronunciation, in simplest terms, pronunciation is the way in which a particular letter, word, or sound is said. For a variety of reasons, many words in English are not pronounced the way they are spelled, and some sounds can be represented by more than one combination of letters. So, you see, Hindi, for example, is a very phonetic language. So, how you speak is how you write, but that doesn't happen always in English, right? For example, a very common example is put and but, right? So that could happen, and that's why one needs to pay attention. One needs to stay more alert when you have to pronounce the word in English. Let us sum this up. Okay? This unit has dealt with the importance of starting and ending conversation. It is an aspect of etiquette and social grace that is increasingly important in the global world. The reading passage on etiquette deals with its origin and details some rules of etiquette related to introductions, table manners, gifts, etc. Remember, we covered these topics. These primarily pertain to Western culture. Indian norms may be different. Now, starting involves three steps. We are just revising everything that we have done. Greeting, introducing yourself, asking after. Ending involves two steps, signaling the end, parting salutation. Third, the choice of the expressions, words, or phrases to be used depends on the situation, whether it is formal, informal, relationship, age, etc., of the person speaking. Fourth, the younger or junior person is presented, introduced to the senior or older person. Fifth, the initiative to close a conversation must come from the older person. Sixth, you may indicate your desire to end a conversation through body language or by making excuses, apologies, etc. Now, let's look at the objectives. Do you feel comfortable? Again, this is something that you need to be active and participative. Do you feel comfortable talking to strangers? Or do you feel shy and awkward? Are you at loss of words after greetings are exchanged? Answer these questions to yourself. Do you like or avoid parties and gatherings? This unit will help you improve your social skills because all these things are part of your social behavior. After studying this unit, you'll be able to first initiate and sustain a conversation. Okay. Second, you can pick and avoid topics depending on the degree of intimacy with the interlocutor, a participant in the conversation. You can evaluate the impact of our own and other people's small talk. Now, small talk is quite important, okay? And use language and expressions appropriate to the relationship with the interlocutor or interlocutors. Now, uh, let's have a little warm up session. So, you'll read the statements given below, decide which of them express your own point of view, ask a friend to do the same, then discuss the reasons for your agreement or disagreement. First, I never indulge in small talk, it is such a waste of time. Second, socializing is the art of breaking the ice and making friends. Third, what we say and how we say it is important because this reveals our personality. Fourth, I love chatting with friends. It is such fun. Okay. Now we talk about short dialogues. As you're well aware, there are two main reasons for reading for pleasure and reading for information. And there are also different ways of reading. So, when we quickly run our eyes over a text to get the main idea in it, social small talk. This is known as skimming. Okay, when you quickly, you skim through pages. So you just getting the main idea. You just go through the pages and you are running your eyes over it, but you are not carefully reading each and every line. You're skimming through this. Okay, but when you dot your eyes more to a text and when you're trying to search for a specific piece of information, it is known as scanning. So, you have been attempting these comprehension passages since your school time or in any of the competitive exams or in any of the exercises, you have these comprehension passages. So, you're trying to search for a specific piece of information. You have those questions below, right? Below the paragraph. So what are you doing there? You are scanning. Okay. Now, criteria for socializing. Small talk. Small talk take place between casual acquaintances and professional relationships, right? Small talk is socializing or chatting, but being careful about the topics of conversation and comfort level of the other person. So, let's say if you are traveling, okay, you are in a train and you come across somebody, there you will start small talk with them, and there will be a certain limitation that you have there, right? You are not talking to a person that you have known for a long period of time. So, this conversation will have certain limitation. You have to be selective about the topic that you choose, and also you have to be careful about the fact that you do not know this person a lot, so you do not know their personal background, you don't know what could trigger them, right? And you need to avoid offensive comments or personal questions when you're meeting. And it's not just about train journeys. You're meeting somebody in a conference. Small talk can take place anywhere. You're sitting somewhere waiting for your turn, and there's another person sitting next to you, or you are probably sharing a cab, or you are in a conference. You are applying for a job and you are waiting outside. It could be anywhere. Okay, so you have to be selective about the topics that you choose. So you have to avoid offensive comments, personal questions, informal or semi-formal relationships or communications. And what are the preferred topics? Topics could be immediate physical environment. Oh, today the weather seems to be good. Oh, it probably might rain. Examples, right? So the weather, buildings and places. Okay. So this, wherever you are, you can talk about it. Like, it took me some time to locate this place, and I was going towards the left, but then somebody told me. So you just have to go with the flow, and you need to start the conversation. Just find a point which is non-controversial, and which is general. These can be your preferred topics. It could be about the hotels, arrival, departure. It depends on the situation that you are in. Let's say if you are applying for a job, you can't sit and talk about the food that you like to eat, or the cuisines, or probably cinema, because everybody is tense. They need to get into the interview room, right? And they are worried about their careers. So the conversation has to be in context of the environment, your immediate environment, right? And like I said, the topics flow from the conversational context. Your topic of small talk is a reflection of your interest area and personality. So, whatever topic you choose in your small talk can represent one, your presence of mind, your social sensibility, also your interest area and your personality. Now, listening conversation dialogue. If one wants to have good comprehension, they must have good listening skills. Now, describing people, you have three criteria for describing personal appearance. First is general appearance. Specifics could be skin, complexion, hair, face. Now, skin and complexion could be of various types, and all skin and complexion are beautiful. Dark skin, fair skin, beautiful complexion, sallow complexion. It's not shallow, sallow complexion. Tanned, okay. Face, thin face, round face, chubby face, wrinkles on face. All faces are beautiful again. Hair, long hair, straight hair, curly hair, a crew cut, bald, receding hairline. Okay. Height and build. Third could be height and build. Now, height and build could be tall, short, medium height, plump or stout person, a bit overweight, slim, obese, thin, fat, stocky, velvet. Now, grammar questions. There are basically two type of questions, open and close. The open questions are those which can have many answers. The listener can reply. Okay, Pride and Prejudice, Oliver Twist. That is, the number of possible answers is really open. Since these questions generally begin with WH words, they are called WH questions. WH words include who, what, which, when, where, how, why, whom, and whose. Let us sum up. In this unit, you have been given some tips to improve your social skills. The warm up task helps you to understand that different people can have different views about socializing or chatting. Through the unit, with the help of literary examples, you are made aware of both what to avoid and adopt. Self praise or bragging should be avoided at all costs. So, self love is good, self obsession, not so much. Neutral topics or those arising from the situation or context are to be preferred, like we discussed in small talk. That neutral topics or those arising from the conversational context are preferred. Okay. In the course of this unit, we have touched on some words which can be used for describing people. In the grammar section, we have introduced WH and yes no questions. Now, these are various emotions that you have. Um, in the slide, you can see in the background. And in this unit, our aim is to help you read and enjoy a passage and comprehend the feelings involved. So there is this, here we are going to talk about feelings. Okay, how do you express it? And how do you make oral requests using different tones? And differentiate words which convey positive or negative feelings. You imagine and write about feelings. Okay, so humans are social animals. Okay, humans need to express. There are a lot of emotions, and communication, conversation, language, the ability to speak, write, um, talk, all these allow us to have a mental balance, because we are able to speak out, we need to express. Okay, so imagine and write about feelings. Write and describe people by looking at a photograph. What you have to do is you look at a photograph and then you describe. Okay, so the idea is to develop your skills here as well. Then you will make a tree diagram, and you can go through all these exercises in your book. To listen to situations and suggest a course of action, and listen to situations and associate appropriate feelings with them. Okay, so let's do a warm up session. Read these following lines: I'm happy, I'm sick, I'm good, I'm beautiful, I'm a loser, I'm a winner, I'm down, I'm fine, I'm okay, I'm bad, I'm clumsy, I'm a gossip, I'm a gossip monger, I'm neurotic, I'm a bore, I'm a mess, I'm cool, I'm successful, I'm a failure, I'm lovable, I'm tough, I'm smart, I'm glad, I'm a teacher. Okay, so you see, there are these words, these describe the feelings. Some are positive, some evoke positive feelings in you, while some might trigger more of low esteem or negative self image, right? And some could just be an introduction of who you are. Now, I'm a good person, I'm a slow learner, I'm not okay. Which of these sentences describe you? Look at these three sentences. I'm a good person. I'm a slow learner. I'm not okay. Now think which of these sentences describe you. Now draw a circle around each sentence that expresses how you feel most of the time. Okay. So look at these sentences and look at which of the sentence describes you more. I'm a good person. I'm a slow learner. I'm not okay. Okay. Now draw a circle around each sentence that expresses how you feel most of the time. When you look at your responses in the slide, what kind of picture do you get of yourself? That picture is a little glimpse of a tiny part of your self concept. Like I talked about when we were talking about feelings, so I was talking about self image. Okay, it could be negative, it could be positive. There were different words. Some would give you positive self image, some would give you negative self image. So, here, when in this exercise, we talk about your self concept, right? Your self concept is composed of all the beliefs and attitudes you have about yourself. They actually determine who you are, what you do, and what you can become. So, the idea of self concept is very important. Okay? And it adds massively to your growth. Okay? And of course, you can change your self concept if you work on yourself, and you must if you have more of negative triggers in your self concept, right? Because that will do no good in terms of any aspect in life. Now, reading. Let's look at reading. While reading, one tends to get immersed in the text and delves into the emotions expressed by the author and experiences them vicariously. Okay, so when you're reading something, you might be reading a classic, you might be reading a tragedy, you might be reading a comedy, but what you're doing is when you are reading something written by the author, you are getting into his thoughts. You are vicariously experiencing those emotions, those scenarios, what the protagonist is going through, right? So one tends to get immersed in the text and delves into the emotions expressed by the author. Now you can also attempt the exercise, reading exercises, which are given in your study material under this category to check your progress until now. Okay. So let's talk about vocabulary. A rich vocabulary can enable the speaker to express their emotions more effectively. A rich vocabulary can enable the speakers to express their emotions more effectively, right? Let's look at grammar, adverbs. One can easily notice adverbs as the verbs which answer the questions like how, when, or where. Okay? And you have this portion in your study material where you can go through this section. So you see how ran fast, scream loudly. It is answering how. When? Leave tomorrow, study daily. Answering when. Place them on the shelf, pour water in the glass. This is answering where, right? Now, while speaking, being polite is, again, we go back to the basic premise of courtesy, being kind, kindness. So, when we speak to each other in a foreign or second language, there is always a danger of speaking rudely, and it is not intentionally, always, right? So, when we speak to each other in a foreign second language, there's always a danger of speaking rudely, not because we intend to, but because we do not know the polite phrases or sentences. Okay? So, because it is not your first language, you are not so well versed in it. So, you might not know the right choices that you are supposed to make in order to express it more politely and in a more empathetic manner, or in a more with use of a lot of courtesy. So, okay, so the danger of speaking rudely becomes quite high. The risk is quite high. So we will now practice both the rude as well as polite ways of saying things. Note that some of the polite ways of saying things may be rather formal. Example: getting someone to get you the key. The door is locked. Get me the key fast, will you? So you compare the second one now. So first, what you are going to example is that you are going to tell somebody to get your key. Now you are saying the door is locked. Get me the key fast, will you? This sounds rude to the other person. Now when you say I'm afraid the door is locked, could you please get me the key? So you see there are two factors. First is of course the words, the choice of words, but also the tone matters, the intonation. So when you say the door is locked, get me the key fast, will you? And when you say, I'm afraid the door is locked, could you please get me the key? This is polite, right? Now, what is a paragraph? A paragraph is a group of related sentences with a single unified idea that has been sufficiently developed. This idea usually occurs at the beginning of the paragraph and is known as the topic sentence. The rest of the paragraph develops the topic sentence in various ways. So, what is a paragraph? A paragraph is a group of related sentences with a single unified idea that has been sufficiently developed. Absolutely disconnected from the other portion, and you can't have a paragraph where you are one place you're talking about, let's say, uh, pick any topic. Okay, you're talking about something absolutely different, and then you talk about something which is not at all connected. Ram eats mango, Sita runs. Okay, so now this, you can create a set of sentences, you can call it a paragraph, but ideally they are not interconnected, they do not make any sense together, right? So usually a paragraph, and ideally a paragraph, is a group of related sentences. Ram eats mango, the mangoes are sweet, his father bought those mangoes, it was a gift for his good performance in the exams. Okay? So, in this way, you see that these are a group of meaningful related sentences. Okay, so that's there, and then we talked about topic sentence. The topic sentence, whatever you start with, the basic idea, you fill up on that. Okay, so let us sum up. In this unit, you learned the vocabulary of expressing feelings, which are both negative as well as positive. In this unit, you learned the vocabulary of expressing feelings. We're talking about feelings, so you learned how to express your feelings. And these feelings could be negative as well as positive, just like self-concept. Okay, so your self-concept could be negative as well as positive. So in your study material, you will read a story of two teen birds and their love for each other. You learn to say things politely and listen attentively to an account of a father who had died early. And in this session, you became acquainted with adverbs and adverb phrases. And finally, you learned how to write a short paragraph keeping in mind the topic settings. Now, let's look at non-verbal communication, body language. Understanding body language and non-verbal communication is just as important as understanding verbal communication. See, communication or language, it could be in different ways. Right? It could be written, it could be verbal, it could be gestural as well. Okay, so when, like, if right now I don't speak and I say phone, you still understand what I'm talking about. You still understand what I'm saying. So these are gestural. This is gestural communication, right? Where you understand through the sign language, right? But when we talk about body language, how is body language different? I might say the same line, the same sentence like you saw in the previous example. There was the same sentence, but if you say it with a certain tone, then it sounds rude, right? And you can say the same sentence politely and it might sound polite. So body language also matters, right? And right now, when I'm talking to you, how I am trying to explain things to you, and I'm trying to be friendly. At the same time, I'm trying to impart a certain idea, certain theory, certain knowledge base without being didactic. Okay? So the body language has to be friendly. It has to be interactive in this scenario that the situation that I'm sitting in. Okay, so I have to ensure that what I'm saying reaches you without uh, without appearing like an imposition. Okay, the scope is open, the scope to interact, analyze. Okay, we cannot interact directly here, but when I tell you, when I give you the warm-up exercises, you can think about those topics, right? You talk and you write those answers. You think about them. You analyze them. So there is a certain kind of interaction going on here. So understanding body language and non-verbal communication is just as important as understanding verbal communication. Somebody could say, "Oh, you're looking very nice." Now, "you're looking very nice" could be a compliment, but if the person is being condescending, then it could not really mean a compliment. Okay, so if you think of certain movies, you'll see dialogues where there are popular dialogues where somebody is just trying to insult somebody, but they will say something which sounds like a compliment, but it is not a compliment. So that condescending tone can either be identified through the tone and also through the body language. And I mean, you can, again, I would keep on telling you that when you talk about daily communication, one important thing is that you practice it, you apply it. It is not a theoretical knowledge. Okay, so you read it in theory, you understand it, but you have to apply it practically in your lives. Right? Now, objectives. Understanding body language and non-verbal communication is just as important as understanding verbal communication. In this unit, you will learn what is body language, the importance of understanding body language in daily life, how different people convey things, not only through what they say, but also through non-verbal communication. Vocabulary related to communication, how to write a description, how to join sentences so that there is flow of ideas in written communication, and how to role play to develop your speaking and listening skills. And what does your body language say about you? Non-verbal communication is just as important as verbal communication in day-to-day interaction with people, whatever we discussed. Body language and facial expressions can speak a lot about you as a person. Our dress, our appearance, or the way we sit or stand, the way we touch other people, our gestures, all these have something to say about us. Body language and facial expressions can give a lot about you as a person. Our dress, our appearance, the way we sit or stand, the way we touch other people, our gestures, all these have something to say about us. And the meaning of any reading material operates at least on four levels: literal, interpretive, critical, and creative. Right? And in the reading passages of this unit, you will come across the literal and interpretive or inferential levels. All right? Now, so thank you. Have a good day ahead.